to get you, and you're going to get them back and all that, because trying to get people back is nonsense. It is. Just stop the crying is basically what all these show hosts need to do. And shows need to do. They need to stop the crying. And I'll tell you what, speaking of crying, when we go into our next segment, we're going to talk about the crying the fans did in San Francisco after the Super Bowl. We'll be back here in a few after this these commercials live here on Spreaker, the Big DC Network, with The Rant.
You are listening to The Rant Internet Talk Radio Show with your host, the Big DC, here on Spreaker.com.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to The Rant. I am your host, the Big DC. We've been talking about some of the shows here on Spreaker and the show host and how people get upset for no good reason. How they, I don't mean they actually cry, but it seems like they're crying, and they shouldn't. And speaking of crying, as I said, when we come back, we'll talk about the Super Bowl, and that's what we're going to do. How many of you watched the Super Bowl last night, Sunday night? I did. And I want to tell you this. 34-31, Baltimore walks out of there, the Super Bowl champions. And I'll tell you honestly, from the very start of the season, I looked at every bit of information I could find on the Baltimore Ravens. And I did. I don't know why I did it, but I did. And a few other teams. And I seen something special. Now, I'm not going to say that I predicted they'd win the Super Bowl back then. I won't. But I seen there was something going on. And as the playoffs started rolling around, I seen, even though that Baltimore was struggled through the regular season, how they were picking it up closer to the end. And then start the playoffs. They go in and they play my team, the Indianapolis Colts. And I seen a different Baltimore team than I'd seen all year long, that I had seen in the last couple of years. I knew right then and there. The Baltimore Ravens were going to win the Super Bowl. I knew it. I could feel it in my bones. Everything told me they were going to win the Super Bowl. They were going to go on and win it, just by the way they were playing against the Colts. And I started telling people, hey, this is your eventual Super Bowl champions, the Baltimore Ravens. Everyone said, no. But, I mean, look at what they did against New England. And then they went into Denver, and they get past that. And then they go in. They go into New Orleans and they play against San Francisco. Now, folks, let me explain something to you. Football is a game of inches and chances. That's right, you heard me. It's a game of inches and chances. Baltimore came into this game, and they were willing to take all the chances to get the inches that they needed. And when I say inches and chances, I mean it's inches and chances on both the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. San Francisco was in no way, shape, or form willing to take any of those chances. Excuse me. They tried to play that game safe. They did. Look at what Baltimore did with their first possession, their first kickoff return. They run it back for a touchdown. I mean, seriously, Joe Flacco throws for 3 touchdowns, in the first half. This was a Baltimore team that from the very start of this game, their mind was made up. It's not can we win it, it's we're going to win it. It's just a matter of what the final score will be. I mean, Joe Flacco, who had an up and down season all year long this year, no one's going to say he didn't, because he did, came into this Super Bowl, and he played like the $20 million man that he is. And believe me, folks, he's a $20 million man now. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's won this. Ray Lewis did great. Ray Lewis led in tackles throughout the playoffs this year. That's right. He most certainly did. He led in tackles throughout the playoffs for defensive linemen. Defensive linemen, keep that in mind. And then Ed Reed, the corner from Baltimore, I mean, this guy is phenomenal. But Baltimore came in there, not only with the defensive mindset, but they came in there with an offensive mindset. Something I personally don't think has been done since the Colts did it in 2006. But they came in and they played a great offensive game. from the very start. And a lot of people say, well, how did San Francisco lose? Look at what they were doing in the second quarter. They could not overcome that huge deficit that Baltimore put up against them in the first half of that game. And I knew from the start of that game that it would take some strange act, some unnatural act for San Francisco to win this game. And that's what I believed before the game ever started. And lo and behold, in the third quarter, the lights go out. And they were out for about 35 minutes. And I guess it was due to a power failure from the Super Bowl halftime show with Beyonce, which, by the way, I thought was pretty good to start with, but then started getting boring after a while. And then San Francisco caught fire. And they had that momentum. They had that same momentum that Baltimore had for the first two quarters. But San Francisco got it in that third quarter. They really did. They got it in that third quarter. And it looked like, hey, San Francisco's going to be able to do something. It looked like they were going to be able to, come back and possibly, be in this game. But here's what I honestly saw. And I'm not going to run down stats and all that crap with you. You all got a mind. Y'all can read the stats on Sports Center or ESPN or wherever you go, or NFL.com. I'm just going to tell you, what's happened. I mean, this is a team. San Francisco put up numbers, but they couldn't sustain that momentum. Baltimore got back in rhythm at the end of that third quarter, and they carried. I don't want to say they were in full rhythm because they weren't, but they carried it over into the fourth. And while Baltimore was starting to gain the rhythm back, San Francisco was starting to lose it. And as I said, this is a game of inches and chances. But let me explain something else to you. Good football teams will make it to the Super Bowl. Great football teams win the Super Bowl. That's right, you heard me say it. Good football teams can make the Super Bowl. In fact, bad football teams can make it to the Super Bowl. But only great football teams win the Super Bowl. Now, they wanted to compare this San Francisco team, with the ones that had won 6. Well, those teams had Joe Montana on it, and Jerry Rice, and things like that. This is not the same San Francisco team. This is a team who struggled to get there, who didn't have the heart and soul to win it, and will never win the big one with the makeup that they got now. I guarantee you, no matter what, San Francisco will never win the Super Bowl with the makeup they got now. Why? They're not a great football team. Are they a good football team? I wouldn't say they're a good football team. I would say they're a mediocre team. Now, a lot of fans out there, San Francisco fans, are saying, what? How can you say San Francisco's mediocre? Seriously, look at them. They failed to stop Baltimore's run. They failed to stop the Baltimore pass. They failed to score late in the game on a last ditch effort from Colin Kaepernick to Michael Crabtree in the end zone. This is a team that is mediocre at best. Plain and simple, folks. The San Francisco 49ers are very overrated, mediocre. They had no chance of winning that game. Yes, Baltimore knew that San Francisco would make a run. They prepared for it. Why do you think they built up that big lead to begin with? Why do you think they fought so hard to get that lead to begin with? Because they knew it would sustain them in the long run. They knew it would sustain them. And San Francisco came close. They came close a couple of times. But you know what they say? Close only counts in hand grenades and horseshoes. It doesn't count in the Super Bowl. Plain and simple, it doesn't. It does not count in the Super Bowl. I mean, you got guys like Ray Rice from Baltimore who was putting up, 1, 2, 3, 4 yards a run. That would sustain them. And then, you had Joe Flacco who would make passes, and pick up, 5 or 6 more yards. But the biggest thing that I seen, that I was impressed with Baltimore, and I said it, if they go deep, they're going to beat San Francisco. And they did. They weren't afraid to go deep. They weren't afraid to go deep. If I would have been the San Francisco coach, the way I would have beat the Baltimore Ravens is I would have thrown the ball right at Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. That's right, you heard me. I'd have thrown the ball to my receivers right at Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. You take out the top guys on that defense. Not demolish, that's not the word I'm looking for, but you demoralize those top guys in that defense. The rest of the defense will fall. But what did San Francisco did? They challenged the nobodies. They challenged the guys that aren't the top. And that's why the defense was always able to rebuild. Sure, they found the weakness. They attacked it. But Baltimore was able to patch that weakness every single time. But when you break down the strength, when you put a gaping hole in the strength, there's no patching it. But they didn't do that. And that's what they should have done if they wanted a chance to even win this game, which they didn't have. I mean, think about it. It was like 21-6 at the end of the first half. The final score is 34-31 Baltimore. Like I said, San Francisco made a run. Baltimore knew they would. That's why they put up all those big points in the first half. And to be honest with you, if the lights hadn't went out in the third quarter, I believe that Baltimore momentum, that high that they were running on, would have carried on through the third quarter, right into the fourth quarter. I believe there wouldn't have been that lack of play from Baltimore going into the third and the fourth. I believe you would have seen a game that would have probably ended up being close to a 50 points to like maybe 10, maybe 12, something like that. San Francisco should be glad and thankful that those lights went out and that there was that 35-minute delay. They really should. But all the fans in San Francisco have now is nothing more than the crying, folks. It's all over, and the fans are crying and whining, and it's time to grow up, San Francisco fans. There's always next year. Where would Ed Reed be? No one knows. Joe Flacco, he'll get his $20 million. Ray Lewis is gone now. Be a different Baltimore team. Folks, once again, I want to remind everyone, we can be found on our own website. The Rant can be found on the Big DC Network's website at www.thebigdcnetwork.tk. We can be found on Facebook at facebook.com/thebigdcnetwork. We're on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. As always, every Monday night, The Rant is live at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Spreaker. Don't forget to check out The Light Is On. That's our podcast show. And by the way, folks, the Big DC Show, Sports Talk Radio, is getting ready to make a return soon, very, very soon. And the Tech Show is getting ready to come out, where we talk about technology. And that's all very, very soon. We'll keep you updated on Facebook about it. We will. We won't leave you in the dark. We'll keep you all updated in Facebook about what's getting ready to happen, when it's going to come down and all. But it's been a great show. I didn't have intentions to taking any callers. Do want to say thank you to everyone who was listening live. Want to say thanks to all the guys in the chat room. It's been real. Appreciated all people. But until next Monday night, well, keep looking for episodes of The Light Is On. Be looking for the Tech Show to come out sometime this week or next. And the return of the Big DC Show. But until next Monday night at 11 p.m., for The Rant, I am the Big DC. We'll see you next Monday night at 11 p.m. Don't forget, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on The Rant. And I am your host, the Big DC. We'll see you then. We will. I guarantee we'll be back. We'll talk about something controversial. I won't tell you what. I won't tell you what it's about. I'm not going to. I'm not going to do the work for you. But stay listening, folks. You'll love it. You'll enjoy it. And give us a support on our website. Support this show. We'll see you then. Stay safe. Keep safe.